Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Caitlin Burke.
And I'm Ephraim Graham. ISIS has issued a new deadline in its proposed exchange for a prisoner swap. The terror group demands the release of a suicide bomber in exchange for a Jordanian Air Force pilot and a Japanese journalist. But the White House has strong objections to the move. Charlene Aaron has the story.
The lives of Japanese journalist Kenji Goto and a Jordanian military pilot hang in the balance as the governments of Jordan and Japan negotiate a prisoner swap with the terrorists. A new video released by ISIS warns the prisoner swap must happen by sunset Thursday, or the Jordanian pilot will be killed. The video shows Goto shackled and forced to read his own death sentence while holding a photo of the pilot, Maaz al-Kaseba.
I only have 24 hours left to live, and the pilot has even less.
The video says the Jordanians must release a female terrorist. The Iraqi woman was sentenced to death for her involvement in a deadly terrorist attack in 2005. The mother of the Japanese hostage made an emotional appeal to leaders early Wednesday, asking them to please save Kenji's life. Jordan is said to be in direct talks with ISIS and has requested assurances that the 26-year-old pilot was safe. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says Japan would do everything it could to secure the release of Goto. ISIS has previously demanded cash ransoms for all foreign hostages it has seized since late 2012, but the White House is against such action.
This is a diplomatic victory, a propaganda victory for ISIS.
What ISIS wants is for people to treat them like a state. It's in Jordan's interest not to treat them like a state.
Meanwhile, up to now, ISIS has been winning the propaganda war for new recruits. Stopping that is a critical challenge facing Washington and the West. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Boko Haram militants are on another killing rampage in Nigeria. At least 40 villagers have been murdered by the group. Fleeing villagers say Boko Haram is terrorizing the country with no pushback from government troops. The militants have declared an Islamic caliphate and are increasing attacks as the country prepares for elections in mid-February. In Washington Tuesday, Nigerian-American attorney Emmanuel Ogebe told Congress that the upcoming election will likely be a Valentine's Day massacre for the poor Christians of northern Nigeria.
She stood up against radical Islam in Germany, and now she's feeling the backlash. I'm talking about Heidi Mund. She received global attention last year when she went to a German church that was hosting a Muslim prayer service and did this.
Jesus Christus allein ist Herr über Deutschland. Ich zerbreche diesen Fluch.
CBN Charlene Aaron spoke with Heidi by Skype for more on what's happened since she took that bold stand.
Heidi, tell us more about what happened in Frankfurt on Monday.
The police tried to convince me not to go to the center of Frankfurt, just to go a little bit outside of it. And I said, no, I was convinced the people have to hear it, they have to think, they have to open their minds. And there was an anti-demonstration on another place. The people, the aggressive people all around, from the Antifa, the leftists, they throw eggs on us and tomatoes and firecrackers. It was really dangerous. And the police was there, but they could not really hold them back. I don't know if they could. I think they couldn't. But, you know, the police in Germany is different than in the USA, I think. It was really like a boiling pot. And many people could not come through. These were people who wanted to join the demonstration, our demonstration. But people from Antifa, they were beating them and kicking them out from the place there. And it was not easy. It was not easy, but I felt really that God was with me and with us. And you know, the media, they asked me, there was a lot of media with their microphones, they asked me if I would have fear. And I said, I was smiling and I said, no, why should I have fear? I don't fear. I don't fear them. And really, so it was.
How can our viewers pray for you?
Oh, if you pray, pray that the truth comes through, that also God will open the hearts and the minds of the people from the media, that they can see I am not what they think about me. I'm another person, and I am honest, and I am just longing to save the country, that God will give grace, that they can see. The other is we really need protection. Yeah, wisdom, protection, also support. We need God. This is just to summarize everything.
Amen. Heidi Moon, we are definitely praying with you, and we'll encourage our viewers to do the same. God bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cuba is demanding the U.S. turn over its military base at Guantanamo Bay in order to move forward with restoring ties with the U.S. That new demand came from Cuban President Raul Castro Wednesday. Castro said the two countries also need to resolve other long-standing issues. That includes the U.S. lifting a 50-year-old trade embargo on Cuba, as well as compensating the nation for damages. President Obama has eased the trade embargo with measures designed to improve economic ties with Cuba. The U.S. State Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the new demands.
The federal government is heading deeper and deeper into debt and could be on track toward a fiscal crisis. That's the warning from the director of the Congressional Budget Office. Douglas Elmendorf says federal deficits will add $7.5 trillion more to the national debt within 10 years. That would bring the national debt to more than $25 trillion. And he told the House Budget Committee the national debt will be bigger than the entire economy within 25 years and get even bigger from there. He warns it will eventually mean, quote, the risk of a fiscal crisis.
The Obama administration is still pursuing a deal with Iran over its nuclear program, but several members of Congress are pushing back. A bipartisan group of lawmakers has launched the Congressional Israel Allies Caucus for the 114th Congress. In pledging their support for Israel, they also sent a clear message to the president to keep up the pressure on the Iranian regime.
I think that the president's, his foreign policy and his policy against the Iranians has been weak, vacillating, and I don't think it's going to stop the Iranians where we need to stop them.
President Obama has threatened to veto any new sanctions against Iran passed by Congress before the June 30th deadline for negotiations between the U.S. and the Iranian regime. Meanwhile, Tehran reportedly continues to work on developing intercontinental ballistic missiles that could one day reach the United States.
Signs of a violent escalation on Israel's northern border. Hezbollah is claiming responsibility for firing missiles at Israeli troops, and Israelis responding with artillery shells. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is blaming Iran for Wednesday's attack, and as Chris Mitchell reports from the Israeli-Lebanese border, it puts northern Israel on high alert.
We're standing not too far from the scene of the attack that left 2 Israeli soldiers dead, 7 wounded, and left northern Israel in a state of very high alert. Behind me is a closed military zone, and the attack was the deadliest by Hezbollah against Israel in more than 8 years since the 2006 Second Lebanon War. Hezbollah did claim responsibility for the attack, and they say in retaliation to an Israeli strike last week that killed several Hezbollah soldiers and an Iranian general on the Syrian side of the border. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu not only blamed Hezbollah for the attack, but also accused Iran of trying to build a terrorist base on the Syrian side of the border. That would change the strategic dynamic in the region. And though it remains a very fragile situation, many observers and analysts believe things may quiet down here in northern Israel. I'm Chris Mitchell, CBN News on the Israeli-Lebanese border.
Baptist ministers in Georgia are squaring off on a bill that some say will protect religious freedom. And both sides held events at the Georgia Capitol on Wednesday. Opponents say the bill could lead to discrimination against LGBT people or members of other religious faiths. The bill's sponsors in the state house says the legislation mirrors a federal version. A state senator is planning for a similar bill, and he says the other lawmakers can propose specific anti-discrimination bills if they choose.
The Chief Justice of Alabama's Supreme Court says federal judges have no right to redefine his state's marriage laws, so he's refusing to recognize a federal ruling that struck down Alabama's constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage. Chief Justice Roy Moore is urging Alabama probate judges not to issue marriage licenses to gay couples. He wrote a letter to Alabama's governor calling the ruling judicial tyranny. He says it's non-binding on Alabama judges because, quote, nothing in the United States Constitution grants the federal government the authority to redefine the institution of marriage.
Coming up, a Christian author writes about homosexuality, and now he's under fire. We'll explain what two popular TV show hosts are saying about him and how he's responding. Charles Towns, the co-creator of the laser, has died at age 99. He was a Nobel Prize winner and also known for his strong spiritual faith. Towns spoke often about the convergence of science and religion, infuriating many in both communities. In 2005, Towns won the Templeton Prize for progress towards researcher discoveries about spiritual realities. He wrote, "My own view is that while science and religion may seem different, they have many similarities and should interact and enlighten each other. The laser paved the way for other scientific discoveries that revolutionize everything from medicine to manufacturing, among other things."
A Christian writer is in the hot seat for a recent column on Hollywood and homosexuality. Talk show host Ellen DeGeneres and journalist Anderson Cooper have sounded off on the best-selling author's article. And now Larry Tomczak is extending invitations to both of them to keep the conversation going.
I write every week commentaries for 3 news services, and recently I wrote one on what I call the avalanche of gay propaganda in the media that's affecting our culture.
When Larry Tomczak sat down to write about Hollywood's increasing images of homosexuality in popular shows like Modern Family, Empire, and Glee, and their impact on young audiences, he had no idea what the reaction would be.
I wrote the commentary just to educate and raise awareness all over America, and it was on 3 news sites. And then I awoke one day, literally, and I found out that Ellen DeGeneres on her award-winning talk show was addressing me.
Larry, I don't even know what it means to celebrate my lesbianism.
Tomczak mentioned Ellen DeGeneres, who is married to a woman, in his editorial.
In the article, the pastor criticizes a lot of TV shows for promoting gay agendas. He says that Glee has over 5 characters.
I thought, who am I that this, gifted comedian is calling me out on issues? But as I listened to what was said, I wanted to, reach out through the TV and say, Ellen, wait a minute, that's not accurate, and there's more to it.
So he's now written an open letter to Ellen and recorded it in this video message.
I'm approaching you today not as an angry, mean-spirited fundamentalist, but rather in a spirit of humility as a would-be friend. In fact, I'd love to chat with you one day and have a cup of coffee. I care about Ellen, and so what I did was I gave an open letter response to her to just try to clarify and correct some things and also appeal to her, hey, let's have a conversation about this in a civil way.
That invitation is now also extended to Anderson Cooper.
I've never actually been to the secret meeting where the gays plot their agenda, though I imagine the catering is quite amazing. But thanks to someone named Larry Tomczak, my eyes have been opened.
Who answered Larry's editorial in his nightly Ridiculous report.
I care about him. I respect him. I admire him as a broadcast journalist, but we want to be accurate in what we say.
The column has drawn more attention than the Tennessee minister expected, but he's not shying away from the chance to have the conversation.
The response has been unbelievable, literally, with news sites and interviews. I mean, I was interviewed by somebody out in LA that they reached 9 million readers.
Tomczak also points to the expansion of homosexuality in school textbooks as well.
Up next, a look at the financial weapons our enemies could use against us. See what needs to be done to shore up America's economic defenses just ahead. Just imagine waking up one day to find all your investments were simply gone. Your bank account was wiped out and the power to your house had just vanished.
And it's all because of a new kind of international warfare. Mark Martin brings us this alarming look at the brave new world of electronic war.
When you think of war, images from the battlefield or troops scouring city streets in search of terrorists probably come to mind. Another arena is the financial front. Known as economic warfare, enemies use financial markets as weapons to attack national interests.
There are a half dozen different kind of systemic attacks that could hit America. Whether it's a cyber attack, which is a really serious problem. One that the national security people call a cyber Pearl Harbor.
Examples of cyber attacks include the recent hacking of Sony and the embarrassment of the military's Central Command by ISIS. A more feared scenario would be an electromagnetic pulse attack designed to wipe out our electric grid and computer chips across the country. That's not all.
There are mercantilistic and predatory trade practices, dumping of foreign products on American markets in order to put American businesses out of business. There is the selling of counterfeit products, which gravely damages all sorts of American businesses.
Or it could be a settlement attack where they take down our ability to settle trades on the New York Stock Exchange. Or a banking attack where literally you turn on, log in, and there's nothing left. These are the kind of financial warfare attacks that we see preparations for daily, and we see examples of attempts almost daily.
That's why Kevin Freeman and others formed the National Security Investment Consultant Institute, or NSIC. CBN News caught up with Freeman at the organization's founders class, attended by an elite group of financial advisors and national security experts.
NSIC leaders say their mission is to promote awareness about economic warfare and to equip leaders to enhance national security, to protect the American economy, and to improve investor results.
It is an important mission, and helping people to move away from the traditional concepts and ways of doing things and getting them to accept and then practice new ways that give us a greater level of protection if we do have a collapse, or it may not be a collapse, it may just be a severe downturn in our markets.
Retired General Jerry Boykin spoke to the group. He knows the importance of being prepared for battle, and in this new era, the necessity of shoring up our economic defenses.
What we see as a marketplace of goods internationally, our enemies see as a battle space.
Former CIA operations officer and intelligence analyst Claire Lopez talked about the importance of studying risk.
For the first time, you've got financial money managers who need to understand things about risk. Hearing from national security people like myself who have a worldview or, an understanding of some of the national security and international security risks out there, they're hearing from us how those risks can affect their own decision-making and their ability to protect their clients' money.
CBN News spoke with financial advisors about learning tactics for this fight.
We're just trying to be servants to our clients, to build and protect their legacies, to try to further the United States and its purposes in the world, and to do what's right for our clients and our country.
I can talk about all these financial things that I've been trained in for so many years, but I didn't realize how many forces are out there to attack it and how I can better be prepared to address those issues before they happen.
It's important to understand not only what our enemies are doing to bring down our entire culture and our society and everything we stand for, all of our first things, but it's also important to understand who's behind these tactics.
And who are the forces that might mount such an attack?
I think you do have to look, first of all, at the big international players like Russia, like China, but certainly Iran is part of that. Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, these jihadist organizations, that they are very much involved in financial warfare.
So knowing suspected enemies and what they're up to in the tricky arena of economic warfare becomes a new battle plan with new soldiers. The goal? Help market leaders, financial advisors, and their clients stay aware to keep our economy stable and better protected to withstand enemy attack. Mark Martin, CBN News, Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
We've got some bad news for people living in the Northeast.
Meteorologists say more winter weather is headed your way. Take a look, though, at this, a 24-hour time lapse that shows the 3 feet of snow that accumulated in Berlin, Massachusetts earlier this week. The next round of winter weather is expected to hit Thursday evening and could drop up to 4 inches of snow on Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. Forecasters say another storm could head into the region over the weekend as well, so brace yourselves. Ouch.
I could not survive in those temperatures. I don't think I even have warm enough clothes.
I've lived through it. Don't want to go back there, that's for sure.
That's it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com.
We want to hear from you. Want to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today? You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. It's Thursday. Make it a thankful one.